Holy smokes, and hi there everybody. You are now listening to PrepperCon Radio. We are back in action. We got the prayer guy Shane over here with me today.
Good morning once again.
Good morning. It is a nice cold crisp one out there, so stay bundled up. Today is an awesome day. So last night I bought a house.
Congratulations.
It's been a few months coming, and it's finally done skis. Well, it'll be done today. They'll record and fund today. And it leads directly into our topic of conversation for today. With buying a house, you have to prove income. Especially if you're like myself, self-employed. You have to prove income like 100 other ways past what normal, Tom, Dick, or Harry's going to have to do.
You normal W-2 people out there.
Yeah, you lucky working for the man type guys and gals.
Which I just cannot do.
I can do it. I have more fun being a realtor because then it gives me time to do preparedness, do PrepperCon Radio, which I love, and do PrepperCon, which is actually coming up. But man, that whole process, so here's the problem I have with the lending laws. Number one, if you're working a W-2 life, they take your gross income. Mm-hmm. If you're not, say you're me, Mr. Self-Employed,
right.
They take your net income. They're like, oh, no. Even after the deductions that the IRS gives you, they're like, no, those don't count. But they count for someone on a W-2. I'm like, well, that's not fair for lending practices. And then they ask you, for all this verification, letters to document everything, receipts to document everything. Oh my gosh. It was horrific. And then the IRS keeps changing policies. And so I've spent hours upon hours upon hours. I spent more time at the IRS in the last 2 weeks than I have my entire life.
But at least you were out of the immediate danger zone, right? Where you lived previously. Right, essentially.
True, right on the fault line.
Well,
now
not
I'm
just
above the fault line.
but the population center here.
Oh.
Is my bigger concern.
That was 6 months ago. So what he's talking about is I used to live in the middle of the valley, which, in case of earthquake, hello liquefaction.
Goodbye house.
Goodbye house, goodbye life as we know it. Not a concern anymore. I'd love to live in the mountains, in the woods, and just homestead, but that's not an option. My wife likes society, and I like it too.
That's a whole other topic we could spend an entire hour on.
Yeah. So let's talk. Today we're talking thrive, right? That's our topic for the day. But really what it boils down to is today we're going to delve into a couple things. Economic collapse, what possibly could happen, and what your options are with that regard. And then we're going to talk about kind of gold and silver, precious metals, and then one of my favorite topics, which is bartering, because that's really the way to go. Before we jump too far, though, we got a caller. Let's roll the dice. Wow. Hey, caller, thanks for calling in. You're on air with K-Talk. How you doing today?
Well, pretty good. Can you believe all the support of these veterans when they didn't even keep any rights around for us?
I assume you're referring to what happened up in Oregon last night?
No, I'm just talking about general how all these veterans should have kept rights around for us, and they didn't, and they expect all the support.
That's quite an interesting perspective. What makes you think that they didn't help keep our rights?
Well, are you aware of everything that's broken in the Constitution that they didn't keep rights around for?
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's not our veterans' job.
Yeah, they're supposed to defend America. That is their whole job.
So they're supposed to defend the Constitution, yes.
Yeah, and
however,
the rights of it, dude.
The public
don't have it to support them in all their wrongdoing.
Well, I'm going to correct you there. You're saying that it's just our veterans' fault. I'm going to put it on your back. And I'm going to put it on my back.
Well, it is.
And I'm going to put it on everybody's back.
Yeah, you're
Whose other fault is it, dude?
What you got to remember is it's America as a whole is responsible for the protection.
The veterans fight for the American promise in a whole, as the whole Army.
Right, it's
the
America
National
as a
Guard,
whole.
The Marines, the Air Force, all of it.
Okay, I got to let you know that if you keep cutting me off, I'm not going to let you stay on the line. So if you let me finish my answer, we can have a good conversation.
Okay.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a public radio station.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is, but it's also a let's talk and be fair to each other.
We are here at our own expense. We're here at our own time, and to give our own opinions as well.
Absolutely.
I'm asking you friendly questions, okay?
Absolutely.
Well, you are, and we appreciate the call, and we appreciate the conversation, but as soon as I start answering and you cut me off, I can't finish the answer. And that's what we're trying to say. K-Talk's whole platform is two-way talk radio. It's so we can have conversations, right? So we can educate each other, learn different opinions. That's what it's for. But if we can't talk, if we're talking over each other, all anyone hears is just the grumble of two people talking, and that's not going to help in a conversation. That's not going to help.
All right, can I say something, Bert?
Absolutely.
You guys hung up on me a lot. Well, the old format on this station plenty of times, so I don't have a right to even talk.
Well, you're talking now.
Yeah, but that's what this old format would do before you guys came.
Oh, well, hopefully we can keep this format and we can keep moving forward. You know, it's listeners like you that actually call and engage in our conversations that helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and yeah, we did have a little bit of a snag because we're talking over each other. But
yeah.
And I think what we really are trying to focus on today is we are PrepperCon. We're PrepperCon Radio. We talk about preparedness. We talk about survival. And that's what we really try and focus on. Sure, we could talk about these topics. We could talk about what happened last night up in Oregon. But we're actually going to refrain from that and really get into what it's going to take each one of us to prepare for what is coming. We talk about today. We want to talk about tomorrow. What's going to happen tomorrow. And that's really our purpose, our platform, we would say. So we appreciate your call, and we're happy to talk about all this, and we have our own strong opinions. But today we really want to try and focus on thriving, being prepared in, as Scott was saying, in, say, a financial collapse, and what could happen tomorrow.
Yeah, that's all. If we let these banks keep hijacking Americans.
Absolutely, that's you're right on topic there.
And that
we need to stand up for that. You know, all patriotism was supposed to be fought for.
Well, I think a lot of people are asleep right now.
Yeah, they are.
And our job is to help wake those people up.
Yeah, they do think they're too proud. They don't have to care. And they gained this problem.
Yep.
We lost something? What, was you guys too proud? You didn't defend nothing?
And you're on the right track there, and I think Scott was on the right track as well. As you're talking specifically about veterans. Scott is really talking about each one of us. It's all of our responsibility, whether we're veterans or not, to stand up for the Constitution. And that's exactly what's happening out with the Bundys, with the Hammonds out there.
Well, thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate your call. Feel free to call in anytime.
All right, yeah, we need to get this place back the way it was gained in the first time, without everybody thinking they're too proud that they don't got to do that. That's what's creating these kids' problems that they ain't even born yet.
Well, we'll keep working to fix it. Thank you so much.
All right, Dave.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's an awesome point that he brings up. You know, talking about what's going on with banks. I'm not a big fan.
Let's just jump in right there. Might as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about today. Let's talk about kind of what's going on with our financial system. I mean, if you've been watching the market this year, it's been really fun, roller coaster down cycle. If you're a day trader, you're probably bald by now. If you had a full head of hair in January 1st, you're probably bald by now. It's the end of the month.
Don't look at me. I'll take my hat off here.
There you go. But if you're in for the long haul, I mean, there's some challenges, some perspective things we want to talk about today. And I've been doing a lot of research lately on precious metals because I'm always concerned, okay, what happens in the future? What happens when the banks collapse? Because they will. It's inevitable. What happens when economic trade shifts?
Grinds to a halt, which is what it's doing right now.
So let's talk precious metals first. I mean, I don't put all my money in the bank. I don't put all my bank. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Put your bank in your money.
I don't put all my money in the bank. I diversify. I've got money in stock portfolios. I've got money in the bank. I've got money in precious metals. I've got cash because I believe you need to have something on hand for a rainy day. Sometimes you just can't get to the bank.
For bank holiday.
Yeah, bank holiday. You can get to your little cash box in your house, but you can't get to the bank. And if those bills pop up that you weren't expecting, medical or any other daily catastrophe, if you can't get to the bank to get those funds liquid, or if your funds are invested in something that's impossible to get out quickly, you're in trouble.
Well, let's touch on something really quickly here, and I don't want to dwell on this, but that our previous caller brought up this banking problem, is that and other shows have talked about this, and like I said, I don't want to really dwell on this, is that if you're a depositor in a bank, that money is no longer yours. It becomes property of the bank. And so many people are advising out there, get your money out of the banks. Of course, you need to have a bank account. Maybe this is an arguable point. Have a bank account to pay your bills, to act like a regular, normal person and make purchases with your debit cards and credit cards and so forth. But you need to have money outside of the banking system. You need to get out of the system. The system is what controls us and manipulates us.
Well, you need to be not reliant on any one system. It's the same for people who live on food stamps. You know, being reliant on a system, it can cripple you. I mean, they're relying on it now. I mean, if you really want to break it down, if you're 100% reliant on a system, it's the same as having an addiction. While it may seem fun and handy and wonderful and dandy, it will cripple you at some point. Unfortunately, we're all bound to it to some degree, but you can diversify. You can be practicing safe methods to keep yourself out of a catastrophic situation when the banks do crash.
Exactly, and what I'm seeing more and more is that we are being tied to these banks. We are being tied to the system more and more crippled, more handicapped to be more reliant upon these banks. And we need to free ourselves from that system. And I think as we go up on this next break, we'll talk more about how personally I'm doing it, how Scott you're doing it. I know a lot of other people are freeing themselves and becoming more free financially and becoming more prepared for the future.
You know, it's interesting, when we go to the bank, oftentimes, I remember filling out deposit slips. I remember doing all that and getting a deposit receipt. Now I get a transaction report. Really interesting how the banking situation's changed. Let's take another call. Hey, thanks for calling K-Talk. You're on the air.
Yeah, I was just making a comment about what you guys were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just hope, I mean, because it seems like it's pretty inevitable. I don't think people are waking up soon enough to understand the complexity and the misdirection from what's happening in our culture, well, the world really. But I just hope when it all goes down that they point the fingers, not at their neighbor, the friends, the family, the gay guy, the religious dude, but the guys that are actually in control of making this happen, are elected and the elite in our country, the corporate business owners have infiltrated our government and world government with religious ideologies. I mean, this whole concept of what's going on is just so crazy and insane and genius all at the same time. I just really hope that people can make that determination of who their enemy is, and it's not going to be their friends, family, and neighbors.
Absolutely.
That's a great point.
All the polarization that's going on. I mean, within our own families, we can't even agree with each other now. You know, we're so polarized. But I just hope love really conquers all, and that love will kind of push through the truth, and we won't be pointing fingers at ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great comments. And I think I agree with you. There are a lot of people that are waking up now. Like you say, I don't know if there are enough waking up soon enough to actually make a difference and actually, like you say, point the finger in the right direction.
Well, I think that one of the sad things is a lot of that finger pointing needs to be back at ourselves. Whether we know and are awake or we don't know and are sleeping still, it's our responsibility, living in America, it's our responsibility, our civic duty to understand what's going on with our government, what's going on with our businesses, what's going on with the elected officials who, let's just be honest, they're screwing our country.
Yep.
They don't care about our country as much as they care about...
We elected them to do that.
What's that?
We elected them to do it.
Yeah, we put them in the position to be
ourselves.
doing what they're doing. You know, and I think we need to really focus on taking care of each other, our families, making sure that we're doing everything we can to help wake them up in a loving way, so it's not a shock. And well, it's going to be a shock no matter what, but
It will be.
do the best we
And
can.
I hope our military makes the right choices and knows
Amen.
when to say
Absolutely.
no.
Yeah, and I think eventually they will. We're running into a break, so thank you so much for your call. We appreciate you. Feel free to call in anytime. All right, welcome back to PrepperCon Radio on K-Talk. You know, you can join in the conversation. We're at AM 630, but you can find us on Facebook, K-Talk Radio. You can find us on Twitter, KTKK, K-Talk. you can find us walking down the road occasionally, and in just a few short weeks, you'll see us driving around. We're about to wrap our 4Runner and our F-150, so you'll see PrepperCon all over the place.
Hopefully.
And then you'll see our nice little AM 630 on the tailgate.
And as the show gets closer, you'll start to see our billboards and buses and all kinds of fun stuff.
Oh, you know what I'm excited about?
What's that?
Our giveaways.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about those.
I was telling Shane about these. You guys can't see these unless you're by your computer. Go to airhog.com and go to vitaldomes.com. VITAL domes, DOMES.com. Okay, those are our two current grand prize gifts for PrepperCon, which is April 15th and 16th. They are awesome. We're giving away a air rifle shotgun, and they've got a video of how this thing works. It's
Awesome.
amazing. You don't need FFL registration. 18 and older, you can win this. It's a $2,600 value, and it is a beautiful gun. Oh my gosh. And then the Vital Domes, $5,000 value shelter. We're giving one of those away. These things will last through anything. We gave one away last year. The woman that won last year was blown away. They helped custom design what she wanted. Doing the same thing this year, giving away a nice one, R16 insulation, just incredible. So go to vitaldomes.com. They're going to be running a Facebook campaign. If you want to check out their Facebook page and see if you can win one before the show, they'll be giving another one away on their website. So let's get back into our topic for today. We kind of started talking about banking, collapsing, trade. Let's talk precious metals.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, Shane here is way more knowledgeable on this than I am, so I'm going to ask a lot of questions and bring up a few articles that I've been reading. But Shane, you know, let's talk history of precious metals. I mean, money hasn't always been a piece of paper. Yeah,
and I want to differentiate the difference between money and currency as well.
Please do.
Well, let's go all the way back. Let's go way back. Let's go back to Roman times. Let's go back to...
I thought we were going all the way back to Cain and Abel.
Well, no, we go all the way back to Babylon, where silver, gold, as well as copper was used as money. It was money. It was not currency, it was money. Now we talk about, you were wanting to talk about value a little bit as well. What is the value of our time, of our labor, of our actual physical raw labor? Now, back in the Roman times, a soldier was paid in silver. If you worked in the vineyard in Christ's time, a worker was paid in silver. Typically, a laborer would receive a denarius for a day's labor. And that day's labor it's not, our kind of labor sitting at a desk or whatever. It's hard labor working in the vineyard. It's a 12-hour day. It's not a typical 8-hour day.
So they worked half days.
Worked essentially half day, which makes perfect sense. And they were paid essentially a denarius, which is approximately a tenth of an ounce of silver, for whether you were a soldier or whether you were working in the vineyard. That was approximately what people earned. And so if we equate that today with what the true value of silver is, and I know I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but we're talking about value here. What's the value of your labor? Do you earn $8 an hour? Do you earn $12 an hour in U.S. dollars? Now, if we equate silver in U.S. dollars, that's obviously how we buy silver is in U.S. dollars right now. And at $14 an ounce, how much is your labor worth if you earn a tenth of an ounce per day? Now, if you look at it the opposite way, okay, if you earn $20 an hour and you get paid a tenth of an ounce of silver, how much is that silver? What's the real value of that silver?
Okay, so today, I mean, if I go buy silver, according to like Rustcoin,
right.
they track the market. I go to their website. It says it's for 1 ounce, it's $14.89. Well, actually, I think yesterday it was like $17.20.
Well, with your including your premiums.
Right.
So yeah, spot's about $14.50 or a little less right now.
Okay.
Plus
so
premiums.
Back when the Romans were paying it out, right? What was that equating? Like how much value difference is that between then and now?
Well, the thing is, the Romans did make their own currency, and eventually they kind of had their own fiat currency system like we do now. The U.S. dollar is not backed by anything. According to Section 10 of the Constitution, it says that no money shall be made other than gold and silver, essentially. And we're well beyond that. now that our money is not backed by anything. And we can talk about, in early the 1930s when gold was confiscated and revalued, when we were taken off the gold standard in 71, where the U.S. would no longer give their other depositing countries their gold back, essentially. Okay, they traded their gold for dollars, say, sorry, we're not going to give you your gold back. And that's still true today. It was meant to be temporary. But I digress. If we're talking about real value, and silver at $14 essentially plus premiums. And if any of you have purchased silver before, you'll know that you don't just pay the spot price, you pay a premium for the coin or the round that you're purchasing. And I don't like to say the word purchase because it's really, you're not buying something, you're actually exchanging. Especially here in Utah, where gold and silver are considered currency in addition to money. And I know I'm rambling here, Scott, so feel free to cut me off wherever. But
it's educational.
But the silver, a tenth of an ounce of silver is a day's wage. And that's where I still hold the value of silver. Even though I can go and buy it at, say, $17, $18, including premiums, a day's wage should be a tenth of an ounce of silver. And that's where value should be with silver in particular. And I'm definitely a silver bug and not so much of a gold bug for a lot of reasons which we can talk about. But if you put that to U.S. dollars, that should put the an ounce of silver at somewhere close to $1,000 an ounce.
Okay.
At a minimum $8 an hour, which, you know what, I'm not going to work for $8 an hour.
Okay. So, interesting, because I've been reading articles about where the value of silver should be, right? Mm-hmm. Where the value of gold should be. And it feels like it's being artificially held down.
Absolutely.
So, after an economic collapse, those values are obviously going to restore, because what else are we going to have that's precious?
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about that for a second. Why is the price of silver so cheap in U.S. dollars? Now, if you compare it to other currencies, as well as gold, other currencies have been devalued against the U.S. dollar recently. They've really crashed. A lot of currencies have crashed. And silver and gold is near their all-time high in that particular currency, just not in U.S. dollars, because the U.S. dollar has more strength right now. So do you understand? Hey Kristen, how you doing?
Our producer, our station manager just got back from vacation, and she's waving at us like a crazy woman through the windows.
Good to see you, Kristen.
We are so glad you're back. That was awesome intermission. Okay, so silver values. Okay, let's kind of get down to brass tacks. So right now they're off. Even the U.S. dollar is pushing those values down, is what it sounds like from what you're saying, right?
Absolutely, and there's a lot of different factors. I think the primary factor right now is that gold and silver futures are sold at these prices, and this is what determines the actual price of silver and gold, is the futures in the COMEX that are sold. And these are just paper contracts.
Right.
They I guess, are compelled to deliver some metal to actually set that price.
And those are the CFTC commitment trades,
COMEX, the GLD,
and bank participation reports through COMEX silver markets, right?
Right. But the amount of material metals they're actually delivering is minuscule, especially compared to, say, the Shanghai gold and silver exchange, which they're actually delivering 50 times the amount of what the COMEX does.
Which is ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. It's all manipulated. And so basically these futures contracts, which are actually levered upwards of 300 to 1, so every contract out there, every ounce of silver and gold is committed up to 300 times to 300 different buyers. But then they settle in cash rather than in metals. So this is essentially where the value of the U.S. dollar value of silver and gold comes from, and that's why it's so low, because it's being manipulated. It's called naked shorting. It's actually illegal.
But yet our government's allowed to do it.
But yet it's allowed to do it.
Wow, that's interesting. Same thing with insider trading. It's illegal for us, but for our government, they're allowed to do that.
That's okay, because they make money,
because they're senators and congressmen and okay. Here's an interesting thing. So I've got a website up. It's called roadtoruda.com.
Yep.
You can see it on our Facebook page.
Great website.
K-Talk. He has this really cool article talking about all the things you're talking about, breaking it down. So if you're listening in, you're like, what the heck? Jump on this website, click on our link on our Facebook page, like our Facebook page, K-Talk Radio on Facebook. It has a good price analysis. It talks about the comics markets, or COMEX, I don't know how you pronounce it.
Comics, yeah.
Talks about the different limits. I mean, and he breaks down all these different, I think he's got 15, let's see, 17,
No,
20.
he has a great website. I don't necessarily agree with everything he says on there,
Well,
but when it comes down to data on precious metals, he's spot on.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 20 data points that he argues that shows that silver should be worth, conservatively, $100,000 an ounce.
Absolutely. And let's break that down a little bit. First of all, let's start most basic analysis here is that silver reached its all-time high right around the early 1980s, where it reached almost $50 an ounce. Now, if Shadow Stats, John Williams actually calculated this number, he does this every year. Currently, if we adjusted that all-time high of silver for inflation right now, silver should be at $601 an ounce.
Okay.
And that's one very simple metric. There are plenty of others out there where silver should be at $132 an ounce. Silver should be even more valuable than gold because there is actually less of it on the earth than there is gold.
He talks about this on that page too.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of many resources, and the thing I like about this is he actually references all of his sources. So, like Shane, he's educated, knows where things are coming from. I like, let's just say you have 10 ounces of silver, right? So you say what the value should be right now?
Well, depending on which metric you're taking. I think the real value of silver right now should be, if you want to say unmanipulated to an extent, should be really close to $132 an ounce. And where that comes from, excuse me, is, I'm trying to remember all my facts here. Of course, being manipulated. Being manipulated from the COMEX. Okay, this is where it comes from. Right now, gold is at, 1,118, somewhere around like that.
Right.
Silver's at 1450-ish. That's about 74, 78 to 1, somewhere around there. Historically, silver has always traded on or around 9 to 1, 10 to 1, 15 to 1 of gold. Now, if you just plug that into the current price of gold, that puts silver well over $100 an ounce.
Okay.
Because it comes out of the ground naturally at, depending on where you are in the world, between 8 to 1 to 10, 11, maybe 12 to 1. But on average, about 9 ounces of silver comes out of the ground for every ounce of gold. So, if free market were allowed to work the way it's supposed to work, silver should be well over $132 an ounce. Right now, even with manipulation.
So if you had 10 ounces, it should be worth $1,320, right?
Absolutely.
So $1,320.
But we can go even to the other extreme. Now, if we bring China into the mix, and if we bring India and all these other countries that believe that gold is money. I mean, you listen to our own politicians and the Federal Reserve and so forth, and they say, no, gold and silver, they're not money. They're just, especially silver. Silver is used in a lot of electronics and so forth, so it can be considered an industrial metal. But that's really only in the last couple of decades that silver has been used for industrial purposes. It has been actually a monetary metal even more often than gold has over the centuries. So silver and gold have been proven as monetary metals, and they will always be. And the elite know this, China knows this, India knows this, and all the billions of people who live in those countries know this. But us stupid Americans who've been brainwashed to think, oh no, gold is just a barbarous relic. It's not real money. It is absolute complete brainwashing, and it's not the truth. The whole entire world knows this as the truth, that gold and silver are money. So what we're getting to here is, and the reason I say get out of the banking system, first of all, how much interest do you earn on your cash in the bank?
Less than 1%.
Less than 1%.
And the interesting thing is you go and you sign a note on a loan, right? Your loan, car loan right now, the best loan I've seen is what, 3% to 4%?
Yeah, 4%.
Home loans, you're about 3.5% to 5% on the top end. Credit cards, those guys are making a killing. They're charging, anywhere up to what, 23.99%.
Yeah, if you default on your payment, you miss one, if you're late 1 month, and it goes right to the default rate of 20-something%, whatever contract says.
That's where, I think that's where we should be investing, right? Creating our own credit card companies. It's ridiculous.
Buying people's debt, right?
But what happens if there's an economic collapse? Let's talk about that. Because that's the speculation of where silver's going. Really, the leveling of the playing field is if there's an economic collapse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which we're watching the cycle repeat over and over again. We're going into another depression. That's just inevitable. Whether it's tomorrow or whether it's in 3 years, we can all speculate on that till our hair falls out and our eyes just stop working in our mouths.
We have an aneurysm or...
We get so dry that we dehydrate and die. We can speculate all we want to. The reality is there's going to come a time in our lives where we're going to fall to the barter system. We're going to fall back to precious metals. We're going to push back to what makes sense. So when we come back after the break, we're going to actually talk a little bit more about that. Talk about how these different things affect us, because they really do. I've got some silver. I don't have a ton, but I've got a little bit. I've got cash.
You don't have 2,000 pounds.
I don't have 2,000 pounds of silver. That would be fantastic. I would be turning into a multimillionaire shortly. But the reality is we all have something of value, whether it's silver or something else, but we can jump into the barter system if we need to. So when we get back after the break, that's where we're going. Okay, we're cutting the music out. It's just crazy time. Okay, we're talking silver, we're talking commodities. Well, not really commodities, I don't know why I
We
said
can
that.
talk commodities.
We're talking currency, we're talking what's going on with money. So while we were off air, Shane and I kept the discussion going, and I want to circle back. So real value of silver, real value should be around 1,350.
Well, yeah, anywhere
But-
from $60 to $130 to $1,000 to $100,000.
Okay, so
Compared in U.S. dollars.
okay,
and that's
sorry.
the
So it
tricky
should
part.
be right. It should be somewhere, but we don't know where. But demand for silver, for electronics, for commodities, for all these different things is really high.
Yes.
Right. Well, after an economic tank,
Mhm.
that demand is going to actually go even higher. Right?
And one thing we have to take into account as well is that production of gold and silver is dropping off a cliff, and that's because of the low prices. If you watch the stock market at all, you watch the mining stocks. They've dropped dramatically. The banks or the mining companies can barely even pay their bills, and they can't even pay their bills. So there are a lot of them going bankrupt. They're closing down mines. They're consolidating. They're
One second, I'll put you on here in just a minute.
having all kinds of problems. So in general, production is dropping off, and that's a bad thing. In the last number of years, there has been a deficit in silver and in gold, and all these professionals listen to, like this guy on Roto-Rooter, they're trying to figure out, okay, where's all this gold and silver coming from to supply this demand? It's coming from old vaults, old storage. So when those run out, we're going to be there's going to be a big deficit in gold and silver for the demand. So that should cause price to go up, and we've even seen that in the past couple of years, where demand has exceeded the supply. Premiums have gone, I wouldn't say sky high, they've increased, and it's been hard to get silver, it's been hard to get gold, especially in any kind of large quantities. What's crazy out there are these investors who pop down millions, if not billions, into investments in the stock market all around the world. $2 billion would buy all of the existing gold on the market right now, and it would shut it down if there were real investors that actually understood, the true value of precious metals.
Let's interrupt you for a second. Let's take a call and see if we can get this listener on. Hey, thank you for calling K-Talk. You're on the air. What's your comment?
So I've got another comment again. In regards to the silver, I understand that, well, let me preface by saying that the goal is to destroy America, reduce bank accounts, savings, investments, really make the baby boomers hurt so they can't help their other family members. Students have high tax or high student loans, no jobs. So, the outlook is pretty grim. And if the goal is to deflate the ball of America, they have to completely deflate it where it's flat. And I just don't see how precious metals gaining value is part of that plan. The banks play to win, and they don't play to have these folks, gather wealth and fight what's coming. But I have two questions. One is, when this gold is valued at today's dollar, and when everything takes a dive, who's going to have the money to buy it from you? And secondly, isn't the goal of having all this money reevaluated for the new currency anyway? And what if they revalue gold and silver at pre-33 levels? So you're looking at a couple
absolutely great questions. Yeah, some very deep thought there. I think you've been watching the X-Files along with me, haven't you?
I did actually.
Yeah, good stuff.
Oh no.
Big X-Files fans here. Anyway, absolutely valid points there. And if I can remember exactly your questions, it is absolutely a possibility that our precious metals could be worth nothing in the way in U.S. dollars, in other currencies, and it could be possibly manipulated to the point where that's possible. A lot of the experts I listen to think that's not going to be possible because economic mother nature, as many of these experts say, will take over. We do need to have some form of bartering, of trade, and when our currencies lose value or hyperinflate, we have to have some way of storing value, of holding value, of bartering. So I think it's even more possible, more likely that our precious metals will go through the roof in value if you're thinking about them in U.S. dollars. I prefer to think of it in ounces, or in, okay, say an ounce will buy an acre of land, or an ounce you can pay your house off with 200 ounces of silver. Those types of things, rather than saying, okay, the silver is going to be worth $1,000 an ounce. But I also believe you need to have an exit strategy. You cannot eat precious metals. You're not going to survive.
Okay, now we're getting into my topic.
Exactly. I knew
this
you'd
is
jump
my
in here.
favorite.
We know that if we're religious, and if you're LDS, we know that there are, call them prophecies, that say there will be some day when a bushel of wheat will be more valuable than a bushel of gold. When we get
barrel of gold,
barrel or bushel, whatever. So whenever we get to that point, you should have already gotten rid of your precious metals and purchased more wheat and more supplies.
and that's where I mean that's my big thing is I look at my food storage and other goods as equal or greater value than my silver. So that's why I just have a little bit of silver. I look at my
absolutely.
food storage, and I've got 3 years supply of food. We rotate it, we use it, we make sure that it still tastes good. We do stuff like that, but that's something I can use when the crap does hit the fan to help my family, but I can also trade the heck out of it to get whatever I need. If I want to get a chicken, I can trade a barrel of food for a few chickens, and now I've got eggs every day.
Absolutely.
Right? So my gold or silver could completely lose all value, which goes back to Shane's point of exit strategy. You know, if silver jumps, I'm likely to sell a whole bunch of it before the market completely tanks, and then pay off any debts I have.
I think one thing you have to consider is that, us as preppers, and well, me in particular, we see the end right now. I mean, we kind of know where it's going, what's going to happen. And I think everyone else who is, call them worldly, or the bankers.
See the end, though, or are you
Go
just
ahead.
preppers?
What's that?
Do you actually see the end, or are you just preparing? Because what represents the end?
No, that's a great question.
Yeah.
For me, an end is a really complete collapse of the financial system, of the social system, and so forth, which I believe is coming. We don't know when, but having precious metals as part of our preparations is, I think, a necessity. It's an absolute, like Scott's saying, you probably don't want to have too much. You may not be able to get rid of it, and you'll have this
Super nice
beautiful,
paperweights.
these great
That's all
paperweights.
that's all it'll really become if and when, right? Everything we're talking about is an if and when. For us,
So you're saying food and water is number one, and then
Absolutely.
pretty much it just goes down from there. Because I agree with that 100%.
yeah,
Sure.
food, water. I think ammunition's an amazing commodity for trade. I mean,
Batteries. So I got one more question for you.
absolutely.
When the digital currency comes in, or they trade a new currency, what do you think the black market is called?
That is awesome.
That's what's going to happen. It's going to explode. The first day currency comes out, the digital currency comes out. It's going to be the next day. It's going to be a whole underground marketplace, and I wonder how we can control that.
Well, have you ever seen the TV show?
I appreciate your time.
Oh,
Yeah,
hey, no
thank you.
problem.
Appreciate
Thank
the
you.
call.
Listeners, if you've ever seen the TV show, I think it's called Barter Guys. It just ended a little while ago. These guys would take and they'd go find something of little value, and then they'd barter and trade their way up. So they took a bicycle once. I think I'm just going to make this one up because I don't remember exactly what it was. I think they took a fishing rod. They traded it all the way up to a speedboat.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, what? So a
They just get more
$400 fishing rod all the way up to a $40,000 speedboat. And that's really what's going to happen. Not that we're going to be getting fishing boats and speedboats, but the things that are most important, if you look at like Maslow's hierarchical theory, like the most important thing that you need is first shelter, then water and then food. Funny thing is, emergency rule of 3. You can last 3 hours without shelter, meaning inclement weather, you need clothes or shelter to survive. Number 2, water. Number 3, food. Those things don't change. Our needs don't change. And so whatever trade value those have, the higher up on that needs list, the more valuable that trade is.
Absolutely.
And so silver and gold eventually will just become paperweights. It'll be just as good as a rock in your garden.
It will have a value, and I really hope that we'll hit that value very soon, because silver is beautiful. I love feeling in my hand. I love that connection to the earth. But yeah, I can't feed my family with it. But if it does have value, I'm hoping to pay off my debts, pay off my house, get some more food storage, guns and ammo with it.
There you go. Let's take one more caller. Hey, thanks for calling K-Talk. You're on the air.
Yeah, you're mentioning that barter guy. I was just brought to mind, I know a guy who was a teenager, and he started out with a smartphone and just bartered his way using like eBay or other sources, and he bartered his way all the way up to owning a Porsche Boxster.
That's awesome.
I think I remember reading that. Was that about 3-4 years ago?
This is about 3-4 years ago. Yeah, he started out with a used smartphone.
I remember that.
Traded this and traded that, and he ended up with a used Porsche Boxster.
That is
I thought that was
great.
hilarious. He was still a teenager, like 17, 18, something like that.
Yeah.
But I just thought, hey, that's amazing. How powerful that can be.
Great
That's a
skill to
fantastic
practice.
point.
Yeah.
I mean, all of us, if you go back to grade school, man, we were good barterers. Think about the lunch table. I'll trade you this bag of chips that my mom packed for me for your pudding, or your Jello, or That's where we learned and forgot how to barter. I mean, if you look at what we're doing now, everything is money, 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 money.
Yeah.
Well, if something happens, money's of no value, but the ability to trade things that we can create. I think skills are going to be much more valuable. Knowing how to make things, making bowls, making spoons. Those are.
And a point I want to
huge.
make is that gold and silver are great, but it's really going to come down to things having actual physical, tangible assets. Like you say, whether it's food for bartering, whether it's bullets for bartering, whatever it might be. Maybe you're a knife retailer and you have a lot of knives that when there's a collapse, you have a lot of product to barter with. I think that's what it really comes down to, is actually having tangible assets. Like this guy, he traded for a phone for got up to a car. I don't believe in Bitcoin. I don't believe in anything that's not actual physical, tangible assets that you can hold in your hand. And when I say gold and silver, we're not talking about ETFs or paper contracts. You're holding it in your hand, in your home, in your safe.
Awesome.
I agree.
Hey, thank you so much for your call. That was a great point.
You bet. Bye.
It's funny. Now that I talked about, the lunch table, I'm starting to think about baseball card trades, football card trades.
Toys.
I was the dummy that was trading for the stick of gum in the pack. Like, I'm all, screw these baseball cards. And today, I still don't have baseball cards. I gave away most of them. But, you can trade for whatever's of value to you is what you're trading for. So, hey, thank you guys so much for listening in. We want to tell all the callers how much we appreciate them. You guys are what makes this show worth listening to. We're going to be back next week. We're going to talk about edible landscape. It's going to be pretty awesome. We have a guest speaker. But how to make your landscape benefit itself, but also feed your belly. We'll be back after the break.